Welcome to our introduction to AuthPoint. So what is AuthPoint exactly? Well, it is WatchGuard's multi-factor authentication service, which you can use to add MFA into pretty much any authentication process. With AuthPoint, you can easily protect your user logins to VPNs, computers, local resources, websites, and more. AuthPoint is part of WatchGuard Cloud, so you can easily manage it alongside your fireboxes and other services. Let's talk about the various components that make up AuthPoint. At its core, we have WatchGuard Cloud, which allows us to configure AuthPoint, download agents, and process web-based authentication. We also have the mobile app, which holds the user's tokens so they can log in with MFA. Once you have configured users and have activated tokens for authentication, you are all set to begin using MFA to log in with the IDP portal, SAML, and APIs. These resources allow users to authenticate over HTTPS to other websites and services. AuthPoint also has several optional components that you might need to configure depending on your environment. The first of these is the AuthPoint Gateway. The gateway provides a bridge between AuthPoint and your local network to allow the LDAP and Radius protocols to be securely transmitted to the cloud. The gateway is also required for the ADFS integration. ADFS is a Windows Server role for providing web-based authentication, and we can use the AuthPoint agent for ADFS to protect the logins to the ADFS server with MFA. You must configure and install an AuthPoint gateway for this agent to communicate with the cloud. The third component is the Logon app. You install the Logon app via an agent on all of the computers in a network to protect the logins to those computers with MFA. The Logon app is also able to communicate to WatchGuard Cloud directly, so it works everywhere the user goes. It even works when the computer is offline. The last optional component is the agent for RDWeb. RDWeb is part of Remote Desktop Services, another Windows Server role, and provides a web page for users to download RDP applications. The agent for RDWeb enables you to protect the logins to that web page with MFA. There is another part of Remote Desktop Services called RD Gateway that handles the actual RDP sessions, and this agent does not integrate with that. We recommend that you also install the Logon app on the internal computers or virtual machines that are being used to protect those remote logins with MFA as well. Now let's talk about how users authenticate with AuthPoint. There are three different options for how users can provide their second factor of authentication. They can approve a push notification on their phone, they can scan a QR code, or they can provide a one-time password. Push-based authentication is where a message is sent to the user's phone after they provide their username and password. They must approve the push in order to complete the authentication. This is a very secure and convenient option for the users since they don't have to type anything in, but it does require an internet connection. Therefore, we always recommend that you enable at least one other authentication option in addition to push-based authentication so users can log in when they're in an offline situation. With QR code-based authentication, the user is presented with a QR code on the login screen. They scan this QR code with their phone, and then they type the 6-digit code that the AuthPoint mobile app provides. This is a strong option because the phone must be in the same physical location as the login screen to scan it with the camera, and it allows the mobile app to validate that the code came from a legitimate login. A one-time password is a unique temporary password that is only valid for a short time. To authenticate with a one-time password, users simply provide the 6-digit code that is shown for their token in the mobile app when they log in. And the one-time password is the only authentication method that hardware tokens support. Let me briefly describe the types of accounts in WatchGuard Cloud and how they relate to AuthPoint. End user accounts allow a single deployment of AuthPoint and are licensed through WatchGuard. This allows anyone to purchase user licenses and use them to protect their accounts. End users can also delegate access to their WatchGuard Cloud account to a service provider if they require assistance with the configuration or management of any services in WatchGuard Cloud. Service providers are accounts available to WatchGuard partners that allows them to manage multiple accounts at once. Think of service providers like a tree. The trunk is the main Tier 1 service provider with its own AuthPoint configuration. They can create new Tier 2 service providers linked to their account to build a multi-tier structure like the branches on the tree. Then all of the service providers can create subscriber accounts that act like end user accounts, but the service providers handle all of their licensing and always have access to those subscribers. These are the leaves on the tree. Service providers can also manage any end user accounts that delegate access to them, but the service provider has no control of the end user licensing. So end users can purchase 1 or 3-year licenses for a set amount of users. These can either be standalone AuthPoint licenses or user licenses from Passport. Service providers also purchase fixed term licensing like end users, which they can distribute to their subscribers, or they can purchase subscription-based user licensing. With subscription licensing, the Tier 1 service provider is billed for all of the users using subscriptions in all of their subscribers per month, and there is no default user cap. So service providers can easily allow their subscriber accounts to add users as needed. There are 2 ways you can log into WatchGuard Cloud. Any end user accounts or Tier 1 service providers can start here on the WatchGuard website. Log into your WatchGuard account in the top right and enter your credentials. WatchGuard partners will see the Partner Portal and need to click Support Center first in the top right. End users will simply see the Support Center. Once there, hover over My WatchGuard at the top and select WatchGuard Cloud to go to the main dashboard. In this case, we logged in with a service provider account, so we see the account manager on the left as well. The other way to log in is to browse directly to cloud.watchguard.com. You will need to do this if your account is a subscriber or Tier 2 service provider. In the rest of the videos, we will be starting here on the WatchGuard Cloud dashboard. As a service provider, we can manage our AuthPoint licensing by clicking Inventory at the top. Under AuthPoint, we can click Licenses to see all the WatchGuard licenses we've activated for our account. Then we can go to Allocation to review those licenses and assign them out to our subscribers and Tier 2 service providers. So in this video we talked about AuthPoint, the core and optional components, the different ways that users can authenticate with a second factor, and the differences between end users and service provider accounts.